And I am here today for Hip Kit Club, making a layout with the May kits. So I have the main kit, the Project Life kit, the embellishment kit and the colour kit to play with this month, so quite a bit there. My assignment today is to make a layout using a grid style and also to incorporate a cut file. So I've used the word happy as my cut file, which is one of the exclusive cut files for Hip Kit Club subscribers. It's like an open alpha, the word, as you can see it there. I've cut it on orange paper, and I was worried that my word would get lost in the background, because I often worry that cut files cut on pattern paper don't have a proper edge to them. They don't have like a black edge, and sometimes they need that for them to stand out. So I mean, this orange that I cut from Paige Evans paper was pretty dark, so it wasn't too bad. But what I did was I created an offset, an internal offset on my Silhouette software, and I drew that internal offset with a sketch pen. So I've got the best of both worlds there. I've got the word cut out, and I've also got an outline drawn onto it using a sketch pen. Sometimes I do that myself by hand, but my lines are never as straight as the ones done on the Silhouette. So that's what I've done with the cut file there. Now I'm using that Paige Evans paper, the one with all of the diagonal squares on it, and I'm cutting it all up into lots of pieces. I'm really not quite sure where I'm going with this layout at this point. I was thinking about using that Dear Lizzie paper with the hashtags all over it. It's really cute and got lots of nice lovely words on there that I thought might go with my photos, but in the end I go in a completely different direction. And I stick to all Paige Evans, that whole Paige Evans paper, just one paper, sorry, the one with all the squares on. And I cut it all up into squares initially, and all the triangles too, and then I went even further and I cut each square up into 4 small squares, so they are all 1 inch square. I still wasn't quite sure at this point where I was going with this. I wasn't sure if I was going to cover the entire background in these tiny squares, or if I was going to like have like a pixelated effect, or if I was going to have a wonky grid, you know, like an offset grid. So in the end I just kind of fiddled around with it and played with it until I came up with something that I was happy with. And what I do is I cover kind of the top half of the layout in the squares, and I leave some squares missing, but they're all kind of in the right, they're in a grid style. They're not offset, they are all in uniform rows, just with a few missing here and there. So you can see that I'm just taking some time sorting this out and getting my papers so that they are you know, evenly spread. I didn't want to have like all the same patterns in the top row and different patterns in the second row. I wanted to have them completely random, so I just need to make sure that they're all spaced out randomly. And I'm going to settle on something that looks a bit like this, so you can see where this dense grid at the top, and it gets less and less as it goes down to the bottom of the page. So yeah, I haven't used every square, I haven't used every pattern. I could have done, because I didn't need to use 4 squares of each pattern, if that makes sense, because I got 4 squares out of each big square. So I picked out the few in the colourways that I wanted to go for. So I kind of was going for a pink, blue and orange theme, and I have a bit of yellow sneaking in there that's part of the wavy pattern on one of the squares. So yeah. Oh, by the way, now I've just decided to stick them all down without you having to watch me do that, because that was going to take quite some time. And now I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my thread if I'm going to do any stitching. So I just pulled over some black thread there and just decided to have a play and figure out where everything was going. So before I stuck everything down, I actually distressed the edges of all of those squares. So that's why I turned the camera off, because I figured that you probably wouldn't want to watch me do that with all of those loads and loads of squares. I've distressed the edges of all of them and stuck them all down. I only stuck a small amount of double-sided tape in the middle of each square, so that the edges kind of lift up a little bit, so I have lots of dimension. And I added black machine stitching down vertically by each row. Now, I didn't go all the way down to the bottom of the page. I went down to the bottom of each square, the bottom square. Does that make sense? I I wanted my lengths of thread to be varied in size, and I knew that some of them would have gaps. You can see it better what I'm talking about here. So on the right hand side of each, no, on the left, no, on the right, oh, I don't know what I've done now, but basically I was trying to make sure that I ended up down at the bottom part of the square without going I wanted the stitching to look slightly different. I didn't want it to be completely uniform rows of the same length all the way across. So I varied them, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. I tried to have a formula. I tried to stick to the right hand side of each of the squares, each row, and go down to the bottom of that one. But that's gone wrong over on the right hand side of the layout. So ignore me. That's what I was attempting to achieve. But I think I changed the direction of my sewing around because of the way the layout was going into the sewing machine. So then I've probably just confused myself, and I've only just realised that now. Anyway, it looks fine. It looks really good, actually. I'm pleased with how it turned out. So I'm just mounting my photo on some journaling cards there. They are the journaling cards that are in the May Pocket Life kit. I love the journaling cards. I use them all the time. I use them as paper layers more than anything else. Basically, it gives me a whole bunch of extra pattern papers that I can use behind my photos and as photo stacks and clusters. So they're always great for me. I love those. So I'm sticking that photo in place there, having created a little photo stack. And now I decided that I wasn't happy with the cut file, even though I've got the outline on it. My problem was, because it's an open alpha, when I place my the word over my photo, you can see through it. So what I did was I cut it again, but just in the white, and I just cut the outline there. And then I'm just going to stick the orange pieces on top. So that means that you can't see through the letters when I place them on top of my photo. So you can still see through the middle sections, the P and the A's. You can still see through those, but you can't see through each letter where it's got a gap, that little open area. And that meant that it looked like a more solid title, and I was happier with how that looked. So just mounted it on the white cardstock there to make sure the open bits are completely white and that the photo wasn't showing through all of them. So that's a little tip there. Just cut the outside edge. I did cut the middle bits as well of the A and the P and the P. Yeah, it looks really good, actually. I'm really happy with the way that title turned out. I'm adding extra letters now using two of the other alphabets that are in this month's kit. So I've used the exclusive Hip Kit Club blue letters to make the word being, and I've used the pink crepe paper all heart collection to make the word odd. And I love those little shiny starburst bits that come out that's on that sticker sheet, so I've added those as well. Happy Being Odd is my title. And I'm just going through the embellishments, the ephemera, the exclusive ephemera from Hip Kit, and working out what I can put where. So I was kind of aiming for tone on tone, but then actually it didn't work like that. So I actually just pulled out the phrases and things that worked for me for this layout, and I just tucked them in and placed them where I could put them. I wanted to fill up some of the open gaps in the grid, and I've added a few bits and pieces, like a couple of hearts and a couple of stars into some of those gaps there. I still wanted to leave some of them completely open because I like the grid style where you've got the odd bit missing. And now I'm just making up some of those fabulous fabric bows that were in this month's kit. I really love these. I really enjoyed using those Maggie Holmes large fabric bows that came in a kit a couple of months ago. I think that was the March kit. So I'm delighted to see more bows back this month, and they're even more awesome because there's lots of different ones and you can make them up yourself, and they're fabric too. So yeah, really cool. I've added two of those, a pink one and a navy blue one. Still kind of trying to stick to my pink, blue and orange theme. I love those silver resin hearts from the Crepe Paper All Heart collection. They're glittery and awesome, so I've stuck one of those to the top right of the photo. I wanted to use a tassel, again from the All Heart collection. However, it's got gold on it. It's got gold thread and gold ring at the top. and I didn't like those because I prefer the silver tone that go in this layout. Especially with the all heart. It doesn't even have much gold, it seems to have a bit of silver in it, so I'm not quite sure why the gold ended up getting put on those tassels. So anyway, I just took it off and added my own silver thread and have done away with the book ring completely. So I'm just bringing those bits of ephemera down now to layer over the top of my photo. It's Odd Sock Day at school, which is why we have a photo of my children all in odd socks. They don't normally wear odd socks. They were so very, very excited to be wearing odd socks. It's funny what things excite them. And of course, the baby, who's only 10 months old, also had to wear odd socks that day too. So of course, he has to be involved in everything that they do. So I'm just going through the Oh Happy Day Simple Story sticker sheets there. And I found that one phrase that I've just put above the photo, which says, normal is boring. And obviously, that goes so perfectly with this photo. I'm just going through and adding a few more bits here and there. You can see I'm kind of messing up my grid a bit here by putting in some circles going across the different grids, and I've got a yellow square at the top there that again goes across 4 squares. So yeah, really pushing the boundaries here when it comes to a grid. But actually, I love the way this layout turned out. I was not enthused when I saw I had to do another grid layout because I've done one really recently and grid's really not my thing. But actually, I love it. I really love the way this turned out. I'm so happy. Sometimes having an assignment like this can really push your boundaries and make you do things that you wouldn't normally always do. And I normally end up really liking the results. So I love having the assignments every time for Hip Kit. So keep them coming, girls. Okay, so I'm just going through and finishing off the last bits now. I've just added in some sequins. We had some sequins with the kit this month. And I want a few paint splatters, so I'm just adding a few navy blue paint splatters that I've made using the magical powders. So the navy blue one, I've just put a tiny bit of powder on a craft sheet and added some water, mixed it up, and then I have a paint that I can then splatter. So I've just splattered it with a paintbrush. And it splattered really well, actually. They were really controlled splatters. I guess it depends on how much water you add as to how thick they are. And I've just added in some journaling to finish off. Just literally written in at the bottom, and I'm just adding the date at the top there. And pretty much that is me done. I wasn't happy with where my word being was, so I've just moved it over slightly. And that makes all the difference. So yeah, that is me complete. Thank you so very much for joining me today. I hope this inspires you to try something that you might not always do. So give it a go, have a go with a grid style, and see if you can mix it up a bit and make something you're happy